As we come back from the break there, we looked at Justin Madden, whose 332-game career has been reduced to squirting a water bottle, dropping a mark and falling over. I think he did a few more things, and someone who would know better than all of us is his brother Simon Madden, who's bought the Justin and Simon Madden trophy with him. Hello, Simon.
Well, good evening, Coz. Two things. They were the highlights of his career. And I'm a bit upset about this cup. I've just seen it's got the Justin and Simon Madden trophy. I mean, I specifically said the Simon and Justin Madden trophy. They've got it wrong.
In all seriousness, Simon, what does it mean to have a game named after yourself and your brother?
Well, it's rather interesting. I suppose it's a bit novel. We're going to start coming out with a cup for every game that's played, isn't it? We've got the Flight Cup here and the EJ Win. But probably, seriously, it's a bit of an honour, isn't it, to think that we've both played, you know, they come with interesting statistics. We're both, most games played for two brothers.
How many?
Only two brothers to play over 300 games. Most game for two left-footed brothers. I mean, the stats just go on and on.
How many for
Only
you?
brothers to pull each other's jock straps off and during a game?
Well, steady. Just don't bring up those. You know, there's some things in the past, some skeletons in the closet you shouldn't bring up.
How many for you?
378.
378. It's nice that Justin finished on 332 because it makes it a nice round figure.
Number, easy one to add up.
It's
710.
710.
Thank you very much.
That's beautiful. Well, that is a fantastic record. And how many for you, Mark?
Me, 203.
That's
so
not
that's
bad for Mark.
913. So between us, we're averaging 300 games.
Yes. Lovely.
So it is. Now, early in the week, we didn't know whether Justin was retiring or not. So the engraver has done a very quick job.
I think he's been very busy today. I think he's been exceptionally busy.
He has.
Or they knew he was going to retire for a long time, didn't they?
Have you consoled in Justin about his decision during the week?
Well, no, I spoke to him. I probably didn't really, he didn't need to consult me. I just wanted to see which way he was going. And I spoke to him on Monday and I said, well, look, what are your chances for this week? Because I knew that Matthew Allen was a chance. And actually now we can see that he did actually take the ball occasionally.
Yeah, against Richard Loveridge.
Yeah, big
5'8".
But he has done very, very well for his career. But on Monday, I was speaking to him Monday, and he said, look, the body can't do it anymore. He played in the seconds last week and actually come off onto the bench because he was injured, and he said, no, that's it, there's no more of that. And he was telling the young fella, Paul, what about that? Learned that off his older brother.
Did he consult with you perhaps way back at the time when he left Essendon to go to Carlton?
Well, that was an interesting one because I spoke to him then, and I wasn't, in no way was I'm my brother's keeper, but I really said that, all you have to do is look at all your decisions, all the alternatives. So what all the alternatives are, after you've looked at all of them, you can make the right one. And he was, he said, look, thanks, and he's quite happy to look at all the alternatives and then took the one with the money.
And I believe his career after football is he'll be taking Ian Cover's seat in the politics field.
Well, there's a rumour there. I know that he was actually approached by a parliamentary party, which doesn't happen to be your one, I think. Anyway, he is actually a member of the Maribyrnong Labor Party, apparently, and it just happens to fit into a timeline where he will fit into a pre-selection if it comes up. So he hasn't said anything yet, but it looks a little bit ominous, doesn't it?
We'll have a lot of fun up there.
Oh, I'm sure you two across the floor will have a ball.
He apparently mentioned earlier tonight, we crossed out to Colquhoun at Carlton, and apparently Justin spoke to the Carlton players, and the thing he was annoyed about was he has to actually go to the game and run a lap of honour.
Well, he said to me, after they said they've got this cup, he said, look, I'm going this year, but you can do all the other years after this, all right? I've had it.
So will you actually present the cup?
Well, funnily enough, they actually put that in the paper before they asked us. We could have said no, and it would have looked a bit funny, but they rang up and said, yeah, we'll do that. So I think he's actually doing a lap, and they've decided to put him in the car because if he ran it, it'd take about 4 hours to finish. But and I think I'm going out to toss the coin, then we both present the cup afterwards. So, that'll be fair enough.
And it is interesting, just getting back to all that Essendon business, the fact that he played out there as well. You actually forget that he did play at Essendon because he did have such a long time at Carlton.
He did. He played 45. He played 45 games at Essendon. We played together. This is actually me there kicking. He was about at that time. He.
This is you. Yeah.
Oh, that's me. I was a bit skinny then. He actually played 45 games for Essendon, and he was very, very good in those 45 games to the point where they wanted to try and keep him. Lee Matthews broke one. I just couldn't do that.
No.
What was it like to actually play in a position against your brother, week in and week out?
Yeah, look, it was interesting. I suppose we started relatively early when we started to wrestle. We used to watch World Championship Wrestling in the old days, and we'd spend an hour and a half after that. All the great wrestlers, Marilyn Milano, all that. And then we used to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours wrestling on the lounge room floor and putting our feet through windows and breaking couches. So we were used to the competition aspect and the wrestling. So we started to do a bit more of that during the game.
And
it was really, it was really good. Now, just
this is
experience. This experience. Because have a look. After that, guess what? I get the free kick.
And Justin's
not happy about that. He was not, and rightfully so. So the umpire did a good job there, didn't he?
I imagine that was a scene that might have been a reenactment of what happened in the backyard a few years earlier.
Yeah, just to show you again what happened. There was just a little thank you very much, just to know who's boss.
How do you rate Justin as a ruckman?
I think he's played the clown a little bit, a lot of the time, and he's said, don't take me seriously or don't take me at all on occasions, but. I can remember, and just last year I was watching one of the games out at Optus Oval, and I think he probably had about 6 possessions around the ground, but he had 14 hit-outs, and I had him in the best 3 because 12 of those hit somewhere on the chest. Yeah. And when you've got the likes of Ratton and Williams and Bradley in the centre, hit them on the chest, and they're a very constructive tapper. So I think as far as a tap ruckman goes, I think he's very, very good. He's up with the best, and maybe he's been a bit underrated because he didn't take a lot of marks, but he used to knock a lot of blokes around, even unintentionally.
Well, Paul Gus made the point when he was here earlier that particularly even in the 1995 grand final, Couch was of the view actually that Justin was the best player on the ground. He set the game up early, and he said we just couldn't get a kick because he kept knocking it to those blokes you're talking about.
Look, it was really interesting because at one stage I can remember he came second in the Brownlow, and Bobby Skilton apparently in the commentary said, if Justin Madden wins the Brownlow, I'll give 3 back. And there for a while he was sweating very profusely there for a while because Justin got within 2 points of actually getting the Brownlow.
He's runner-up in 1985.
In 85, yes, very close.
And that's interesting because a lot of boundary throw-ins, for example, have become wrestles, and it's a 50-50 in the air and a 50-50 on the ground as a result. But Justin was just as devastating at the boundary throws in actually giving it to a player.
Look, he was fantastic. And also, people forget that he's big and lanky, but he was actually about 18 stone, 8.5 stone he played it. And his arm span, of course, is as wide as he is tall, so it's about nearly 7 foot wide. So he used to put his big frame in the way, stretch the arms out, and just after all, sometimes he was tapping the ball about 5 feet off the ground, but nobody else could get around him.
He was the main catalyst in regards to the umpires changing the decision in the ruck contest because of what he used to do.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you have to say you have a profound effect on the game when they have the umpires and the powers that be changing rules because you do something so well. So he has had an effect on the game, hasn't he? You don't say that with confidence.
No. He didn't do a lot to actually change it. As you say, all he did was actually basically park himself in front of his opponent at the throw-in.
And put his arms out.
And so, like, he wasn't shepherding, he just was happening to be there. And because he's so big, he wasn't allowed to be there. So that's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, do you think Carlton might be a bit fired up to do it for Justin on Saturday?
I think they'll be glad to do it because they've finally got rid of him.
Would they get him again to talk to him just prior to the game, do you think?
Well, I suppose you'd have to speak to those, to the Carlton people. I think probably
because if he got to the game before it and he actually did get emotional, not that he did before, as Cole Kinnear said, if he did get emotional, I would think that would really due the players on a lot before the game.
I think, well, 2 aspects. I think one, besides all the the carry-on that goes on, I think he's been a great part of the Carlton Football Club, and they realise that. And I think that in him passing, from the game, I think they'll be pretty pleased to do something for him. And also just in those moments when you have a player retire like that mid-season and ask Couchy, that really is a spur for the club. So I think Essendon, I think they've been playing better football. I think it's going to be sensational, and they'll be right up against it against Carlton.
You're involved out at Essendon these days?
Just in some promotional work, not in actual coaching stuff this year, but in promotional.
He talks at some of our luncheons at the sponsor groups, yes.
Yeah. Like Essendon, I'm thinking of getting you in to talk to the Essendon players to sort of beware the Justin factor.
Don't be surprised if the old fellow does.
I was thinking, just the way the ruckmen are going out of Carlton, I just thought about ringing up Cole Kinnear and say, look, if you can you put me on the rookie list?
The one thing you have been involved in an official capacity has been with the Victorian side. We should congratulate you this year on picking a very nice side.
Thank you very much.
I think on the telecast of the Victoria South Australia game, there were some shots of Lee Matthews sitting in the front, coaching the Victorian side. In the back row, you could see Simon sitting there, and you were there anxious moments, or were you confident all night that
I sort of played the Graham Richmond role, the old Graham Richmond role. I just made it all happen and stood back in the background. I wish.
So we'll see Justin probably when he's finished his football, obviously, but he doesn't seem like he's a bloke that's going to miss his football. I mean, he's obviously planned his life after footy, whereas you probably want to still be involved in football. Naturally, you are.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you finish football, you've got to make a choice. Will I continue full time, which is probably there's not that many opportunities. Will I continue sort of part time, or will I just get out of it completely? And you see some players can walk away from it completely. Others are so keen to get involved, stay involved full time
because that's been their life.
Because it's been in life, where other players sort of, I suppose, at the moment I fit in that stage where you still want to have a contact, but you're not really into the full-time aspect of it. You just want to be there and be part of it. I think Justin, this year's helped him, as he said himself, wean himself off the game. So he's been able to play full-time last year, and then this year playing the twos and gradually get out of it. So he's actually said to me, last week that, I've had enough, that's it, and I can quite happily walk away from it. It's very easily said, that's easy to say at the end of your career. It's probably about 6 months later, 12 months later, when you look back and have you actually done that. So I think he might be able to do that. I think the person is.
Actually, his book, Harry, he actually says that in his book that he's not once it's over, he's not going to go. Here, let's just recap the teams for the Carlton Essendon match.
The Simon and Justin Madden Cup.
For the
that order.
For the Madden Brothers Cup, and the Essendon side have made one change with Ryan O'Connor coming in, Mark Fraser going out, no sign of Mark Harvey.
He was a late O'Connor was a late withdrawal from the game last week because of the conditions of the ground. Didn't suit the big fella, so they opted to leave him out of the side. So he's come back in the side at the expense of Mark Fraser. I played last week and
just the first one up.
Yeah, first one up. So I'll probably
another
one.
Yeah, fair enough.
So
that's a good decision, I think.
But it's coming close for me too in regards to I'm going to retire at the end of the year, so I'm going to go through the same sort of stuff.
Well, there's a couple of people in this team who have to retire at the end of the year too. I think there's the oldest team in the league.
Well, we've had Greg Williams on tonight in an interview with Neil Baum saying that this is his last year. He'll be finishing up. There are some changes there. Mill Hannah is back in the side, as into the side also the boy Mark Porter making his debut in the ruck.
It's a big move, isn't it, from the just the extras list, the rookies list straight up to big time.
Gary Moorcroft did the same thing at Essendon,
and Whitehead also into the side, and 3 players out, and they've gone before I could tell you who they were. But I trust you are reading along at home. Now, the Essendon reserves, are they playing at Punt Road on Saturday?
No, the game's actually at the MCG, so for all those 80,000 people that go to make sure you get there early. So a couple of good players playing reserves. So
when the reserves game's finished, you won't go into the rooms, you'll stay out to watch Justin go around in the car, will you?
I would. I'd like to see that side and emotion of football. I think it's terrific.
That's good. That's a great part of footy.
That's part of footy, it's great.
It's great. I mean, that's, all those extra bits really make it the game it is.
Like I could watch Ted Whitten and Paul Cowes go around that ground and just get goosebumps all the time watching that sort of stuff.
Good to hear a player saying that, because quite often we think that the players don't have that same emotional involvement in the game because it is a business these days. But it's great to hear that. In fact, it was great to talk about Couchy going in the car, because we haven't had a player go around in the car in Geelong over the last, as long as I've been there, because mainly players have left the club, and it perhaps not in the best circumstances.
Apparently a couple of players went around in the car, but that was late at night after training. Did they hit the ground, a few wheelies?
Well, they had to rehearse.
Can I ask one thing? Why his wife wasn't in that car? Why couldn't she jump?
Do you know what I mean? No, because he had the 4 kids in there. There was no room left.
Well, she was having a rest. She said, you take your kids, I can have a rest.
And plus they had Graham Johnson, the marketing manager, driving, and Jono was taking up plenty of room.